My guest this hour, this is someone with credentials and lots of interests. She's an author, mental health professional and counselor, a community advocate, a podcaster. She was twice a candidate for the Board of Aldermen in Waterbury, and she's a former member of the city's Arts and Tourism Commission. She's also the owner of a corgi dog named Preston, and has been the guest host here on Talk of the Town in the past. Now, here's the interesting part. She has described herself as being shy and an introvert, and that's not what I'm seeing sitting across the console from me. Yet a story in the Republican American more than 3 years ago headlined her as a strong voice in the community. My guest this morning to talk about her new book is Liz Bullard. Liz, good morning.
Good morning. You most certainly did your homework.
I did a little bit. Well, this is a new job, so, you want to make a good, one, you want to make a good first impression, and two, if you don't do a little digging and get stuff to talk about, it's going to be a real long hour.
Absolutely.
First off, since we don't know each other, give me a little bit about your background.
Sure. So for those who don't know, my name is Liz. I have a little corgi pup named Preston, and been in Waterbury for quite a long time, involved in whether it's the arts or politics or community involvement. Been involved in all those different spaces. Just trying to make the world a little better than I found it is essentially how I like to coin myself.
But you were a juggler. You have so many balls in the air. How do you do it?
I don't do everything all at one time. But I really learned, especially the pandemic helped me with a lot of this, right? Managing my time, really prioritizing and reorganizing my time. Because I found sometimes you're spinning your wheels, like going to all these different things, but they're not either making you feel fulfilled, or they're not really doing the thing that you want it to do, whether it's like making change or helping a certain group or whatever. So sometimes I do little audits for myself, like where is my time going? Where do I want it to go? What's no longer providing joy that it once was?
That's good advice for everyone. How did you come to writing? Is that something that they developed over time? And is writing a chore or an escape or both?
Ooh, really good question. So I've always, loved reading. Ever since I was a baby, my mom would read to me. So reading always was really a big part of my life. And I, naturally when you read, sometimes you would write. And as a kid, sometimes would write, but wasn't really a skill that really got developed. Always did good in English class and loved when they had book reports and any of that. But it kind of got on the back burner growing up, and other things take over. And during the pandemic, I had a friend on my other podcast, Coffee and Combos, and we were talking about kind of self-care and is what you're doing enough to kind of decompress. And that sat with me, and thinking about is my current routine of just kind of shedding the day job or life stress enough? And so when she said she was doing a writer's type of meet in the morning, and we would do writing prompts, I said, well, let me give it a try. So every morning since it's been 2 years, we meet 8 o'clock Monday through Friday. We were meeting for a half an hour. Now we meet for an hour or more, and we chat at early in the morning at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we write. We do writing prompts. And from that, it just grew, and we started kind of challenging each other to do, let's write and do longer stories. And from there, some people went to start series, finish series, have 4 or 5 or 6 books. And so it just kind of this collaboration of cheering each other on, that gift kind of got to re-come out.
So what you're saying is writing is therapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I've been a writer all my life, writing for newspapers. What is a writing prompt? I don't know. I don't know what that is. That may have. I'm kind of. I have a gray beard and gray hair. What's left of it. So maybe that phrase wasn't around when I started. What is a writing prompt?
Okay.
Give me clues.
So we do on Wednesdays. We'll do a writing prompt together. So we have 2. We'll do Exquisite Corpse, which is just say. The word is WATR, or like radio, right? And so we would all like type a word in like the little text thing, and on the count of 3 you just put out there. So you kind of make a poem, right? So like if we were doing it and, you know, we start off with radio, and I say, okay, love to be on WATR, and you said like I'm a host or whatever came to mind. Then you read it all together, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes we do build a story, which is you build on the next person's line. And then sometimes what we'll do is we'll start off, everyone takes turns each week with a prompt. And so like for my book, Prophecy Trilogy New Moon, the original prompt was New Moon, Leo, Portal, these 3 words. And from those 3 words, I had created a scene, and then I just kept building on that scene, and we now have a structure for a 3-part series.
Well, not to get ahead of ourselves here. New Moon is the first book in the trilogy.
Correct.
I know that Portal is the second.
Correct.
What's the third one going to be?
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Leo, but I don't know if that works. But
that was what I was getting at.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm tied to it. I don't know if that will really work, but like I'm really tied to that name.
Okay. Well, with the new book, New Moon. It starts out vividly. Let me read the first line that you wrote. The blood-soaked earth groans for peace, and the ground shakes from warriors immersed in battle. And then it gets exciting after that. Where did the idea come from? What's the story?
Yeah, so the story starts off in New Moon. They're right in the middle of a war that's been going on. And
now New Moon is... Where? I mean, where is it?
So New Moon is in a world that I have called Zodia, which is, think about if the Earth world, right, didn't have technology and we really emphasized like really like an eco-friendly lifestyle, right? They're really conscious about the land, and they have some elemental magic such as fire, earth, water, wind. So people get to connect with these different elements and manipulate them in their daily life, but really not a world where we have technology, right? Everyone's not walking around with phones, right? They're really connected to the earth, the land, and just kind of like having this kind of intuitive island kind of lifestyle. So that's where it starts off, and where most of the novel will take place.
And then go ahead. I interrupted you, but no, go ahead. I just wanted to give the setting to get us off.
No worries. So like we start off in Zodia in the midst of this war, and you get to kind of see the council and some of the kind of structure of the government there, and then you're immersed into the 2 main characters, Eli and Talia, who are husband and wife, and we get to kind of see their bond, which, you know, they go through a struggle throughout this series, right? Their relationship really goes through these ebbs and flows. This, you know, their connection kind of gets a little bit torn. And so, you know, we get to see that in this first book. And then you'll see later Tabitha, who is called the Chosen One, right? So she's destined to go and save them from this impending danger, because in Zodia we have these 2 suns, right? You have your typical sun that rises and falls, and then you have the crimson sun, which is when it eclipses the sun, the typical sun, there is an impending battle that will commence, and this evil will kind of hang over the land. And so it's up to her to kind of save these people from that danger.
So I guess I'm right in assuming you have a splendid imagination.
Yes, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately.
I mean, where do the ideas come from? Do they just pop into your head, or
yes, what? A lot of times, yeah. And I think, you know, it really helps, like, consuming content, at least for me. I was talking to someone else who's like a discovery writer, which just kind of means like as you're writing, you discover more of the story, more of, you know, what's going on. And we were talking about like consuming content really helps, right? Because it kind of like, it gets your mind kind of going, just kind of like exposing yourself to life. Like you walk, right? And you see something, right? Like maybe you see, I don't know, this leaf floating, and you kind of start letting your mind wander, and then the story builds from there. But I think my friend Cynthia Carver, who is also an author, and definitely check out Small Bit of Justice, loved her book, but she talked about the creative process. And, you know, like when you're a kid and you start telling these stories like, oh, like we're going here and then we do this, and just kind of like cultivating that initial, that youthful creative spark, I think is really helpful. Just kind of like not letting that die and just refinding that. It's super fun, and super fun to do that through writing.
I can't imagine doing something like this, a project such as a trilogy, especially when you're creating your own world. I mean, there is absolutely no way to research it.
Well, you might take elements from like different cultures and things like that, and then you let your mind kind of go and play from there.
I'm Bud Wilkinson. This is Talk of the Town on WATR. My guest this hour is local author Liz Bullard, who is talking about her new trilogy. And it's very exciting, and we will have more in a moment. It's Talk of the Town on WATR with Bud Wilkinson, performance number 6. I keep mentioning performance numbers because I started last week, and I'll tell the quick story behind it just for a second. I used to have a friend who was the television critic for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And if you know reporters, they have reporters' notebooks. Well, he used to put a page number on every page of every notebook that he ever had. And he was into the hundreds of thousands. So he was keeping track of how many pages of notes he'd taken during the course of 40 years as a newspaper reporter. Crazy idea. And I'm thinking, well, I'm starting here at something new. I'll just mention the performance every day, every time I'm sitting behind this microphone. So that's why I mentioned 6. Anyway, my guest this hour is local author, community activist, counselor Liz Bullard, and we're talking about her writing in her new book, New Moon. Why a trilogy? The next one up is Portal, as you mentioned. What's the timetable on this?
Yeah, so actually, I'll give you a little background. So Portal, I thought was going to be book 1. So I wrote Portal because that was the first thing I saw in my mind, wrote it, thought I was going to publish it, started kind of getting some beta reader feedback, and I was like, you know what? I need to have something before this, right? I need to give a little bit more context. So hence New Moon came out, which is already out, which was released on July 17th.
And is available where?
Wherever you buy books, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords. So it's pretty much wherever you like to buy your books, it's out there.
Okay.
And so New Moon is already out. Portal is up for pre-order, again, on all those platforms, and is set to release on May 17th, 2024. So that's the deadline I'm giving myself. So, again, it's mostly there, but I need to go back and give some structures and fix some things. So my goal is to start edits by August and get it to, I think another round of developmental edits and then copy editing by no later than November.
You know, the crazy thing about writing is you write something and you set it aside for even a couple of hours. You go back and you look at it and you go like, there's a better word than that one. Yes. What is it? And all of a sudden you start tweaking, and you can tweak your copy, whatever you've written, you can tweak it to death because you're always trying to make it better.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, another of my friends, Danny Williams, she writes paranormal romance. Definitely you got to check out her Nightshade Vampire series. Just finished. Love it. She talked about, you can edit it to death, but at some point you just need to let it go, and that really helped, right? Kind of like
a breakup.
Yeah, like
you just got to let it go.
You do, and it really helped because you can edit it to death. But she talked about getting it to a point where you say yeah, I've taken it as far as I've taken it, and with New Moon I really felt like I took it as far as I could take it. Now it's time to get Portal there.
What's the writing process like? And I ask because it didn't involve writing, but I was talking once with the one-time host of The Tonight Show, Steve Allen. He was one of the early hosts of The Tonight Show. And he told me at that point, and I got to know him because he had worked at a radio station in Phoenix where I lived. And he's there, I always carry a mini recorder with me. So if an idea pops into my head or a phrase, I click it on, and I always have it. Well, we have our phones now to do the exact same thing. Do you find yourself doing that? Something pops into your head. Do you go to your phone, write it in notes, or click a memo to yourself?
Sometimes I will jot things down in notes. But sometimes I'll just I find for me, if I sit down and I just start typing and I tell myself, don't stop until, I don't know, the end of this writing sprint or the end of this, I tend to be really productive right? Like that really is where I get to just not let any words of doubt or anything just kind of show up. I just kind of, I don't overthink it. I just go. That seems to be most helpful for me. But oh yeah, like I definitely sometimes will lose stuff with endnotes because there's so many.
What about writer's block? Ever have it, and what's the solution?
Oh yeah, so like there was a time, right? It was during November, which was National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, and so the goal for National Novel Writing Month is to get 50,000 words by the end of this month, right? And a friend of mine, Ngozi Robinson, again, another great author. She has so many books out there. She was having like a critique because in part of this group, right, some people, there's other writing groups associated, right? So like on Clubhouse, which is an app like, Facebook, Twitter, all those, there was one group that was giving her a critique. And in listening to the critique of hers, I was just like, wow, like her stuff is really good and my stuff isn't that good. What am I doing writing? And so like I really got into my head and I was just like, what am I doing? I can't do this. And like the words would not come. Like I just got so in my head and it stunted me for a couple of days. Like I remember just being just like in not a good spot. And then what I did is I took some space. I was ready to delete everything. And I went to the bookstore. Had a great week and just outside, just kind of connecting with my writing and finding the fun in it again. And as simple and silly as that sounded, it sounds like it helped it not feel so that pressure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I got to I just went back and I said, you know what? I'm just going to write the way I write. And from there, that was helpful. And then I learned about intuitive writing. And so I was like, oh, I really connect with this style. And so what I did is I kind of fell in love with my writing and my style, and that helped. And so if someone is struggling with writer's block, take a step back. Maybe you're too close. Maybe you're being too judgmental of your work, and just giving yourself that break. I think don't look at writer's block as this thing that's trying to, we'll say hurt you, but it's letting you know you're putting either too much pressure or you've kind of gotten off track here.
We're talking to Liz Bullard, local author and community activist and counselor. We're talking about her new book, New Moon. I'm Bud Wilkinson. This is WATR. I should mention that, mention the call letters. But do friends ever say to you, I don't understand how you do it, how you can write? I mean, because I'm convinced that if you're a writer, yeah, it might be your job, it might be work, but writing is fun.
It is. It's so fun. And I think, right, so I have the luxury, right, that's not my only job, right? So I think that really helps. And when I find myself being, too oh, I have to get this right, or I have to do this, right? Anytime you get into the have tos or the shoulds, you're setting yourself up to fail. So if I notice I'm telling myself that, I go back to the fun. This is fun. Just have fun.
Do you specialize or do you? I'm trying to think. Do you just specialize in writing, or do you write it? You mentioned the poetry on the prompts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Is it helpful to do all kinds of writing, different styles of writing, or is it better to focus in on one and just be really good at it?
I like to call myself a multi-genre writer. There are some people, they only write what they write. I like to try it all, and in doing prompts, and again, being in a writer's group where you have all these different styles, right? So Danny Williams, like I mentioned, she does paranormal romance. When it was her turn to do prompts, I was like, well, let me try to do romance. Hence, I had my short story, Twisted Romance, which is kind of like a romantic thriller that's available on Amazon. If I didn't have, there's some groups, some people in the group who like to do a little bit of a thriller or a horror slant. So then I try and do that. I'm like, ooh, this could be a potential story. Let me revisit that. So it's really great trying different things. You may say, I can only write this one thing. Cool. You may say, I'm actually a multi-genre writer, and I have fun doing that.
I've got a friend. I was earlier in my career as a TV critic for a couple of newspapers, and I developed a friendship with one of the critics at the time. Her name was Cheryl Woods. I knew her as Sherry. I still know her as Sherry Woods. Well, she went on to become a mystery writer, did that for a little while, then became a romance writer. And has written more than 100 romance novels,
Wow.
has been on the New York Times bestseller list repeatedly. 2 of her book series, her romance series, have been turned into TV series.
Wow.
Chesapeake Shores on Hallmark Channel, and what's the other one? I'm having a little brain fade here. The other one's on Netflix. Steel Magnolias. It just came back. Steel Magnolias is hers, and she's the executive producer of these 2 TV series. And I look at her and I go, you are amazing, and I mean, I'm so thrilled that she did it as a friend. It's nice to see your friends become successful. Mm-hmm. What are your goals?
Oh, wow, that's such a hard question. All right. My goals, I would love, 100 books would be amazing. I would like to see myself get to 20 books. If I could get to 20 books, I'll be like, whoa, look at you. Get to 20 books, still enjoy what I'm doing, and have it be a source of passive income. I think a lot of indie authors, right, we all want to get to that point where we are making more money than we're putting into these projects because you're funding all of it so getting to that point where it is lucrative but it's still fun, and then I can look back and say wow, I have a backlist here, that would be cool.
Well, it's the old story. If you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work. So
yeah.
But there still is that out-of-pocket element that is a problem. I'm Bud Wilkinson. This is Liz Bullard, who is an author, a podcaster, a corgi owner. I've got a friend with a corgi. They are so adorable.
Aren't they?
They are. My friends had an elderly corgi, and I would. The corgi would come to Club Bud sometimes, but it was so old, its back was bad, so you try to pick it up and put it on on the sofa or something, and it would get really mean and vicious, just because it didn't feel good. Now they've got a puppy, or they had a puppy, I guess Bindy's maybe a year or 2 old now. What a lovely dog. Oh. Why corgis?
You know what? The story of Mr. Preston, I wasn't looking for a dog. My mom liked to stop at, the little pet stores. And so there was one, and we were driving, and I was sitting in the car, and she went in, and then she comes out and she says, you have to look at this corgi. So, okay, I get in. I've always wanted corgis. I thought they were cute. And she talks up this dog, right? And has she calls the owner, all this. They drop the price, all this thing. We're 20 minutes talking about this dog. So now I'm I can't leave. I gotta take this dog. And so that is the story of Preston. I ended up going, and because she talked him up so much, and that was his name. His name, on the paperwork was Preston. I said he looks like a Preston. So it stayed, and I took him home, and he's been a spoiled, rotten brat ever since.
That is the only way to treat a dog.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't own them; they own you.
Oh, 100%.
Sleep on the bed?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I'm just asking. Some people are opposed to that, and it's if you're going to have a dog, might as well keep you warm at night.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was just thinking, you might have older folks who are. I don't want to say shut-in. That's the wrong word. They're shut-ins, but older folks that are home and don't have regular contact with that many people. You may have new people in town who don't know very many people. You have other people that are just maybe introverted or shy. What advice do you give to help them connect? Do you know some resources you can mention here in Waterbury and in the area? And what can they do to broaden and enrich their lives, enliven their lives a little bit?
Really good question. Yeah, so absolutely connecting with people is really important. And so start with what interests you, right? So whether that is writing, music, whatever that is, start with what interests you. And you might be, there might be local groups that are involved in that. If you're just really shy and you're I don't want to meet in person, there's a lot of online groups. So start with what interests you. Libraries are a wealth of knowledge, and so many groups there. So going to a library. Again, if you're in a political heavy town like Waterbury, find the political groups. Start attending those meetings and see if there's people that you connect with.
Let's shift again, since we still have about 9 minutes to go here. We haven't talked about your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's something that's really caught on. I think a lot of people don't understand, how podcasts work and how they're consumed and how popular they've become. I listen sometimes to, there's a Hollywood writer by the name of Ken Levine who used to write scripts for MASH and Cheers. He was a script consultant or a storyline consultant for those shows, I think. And he has a podcast called Hollywood and Levine, where he interviews people he knows in the business in Los Angeles. So it's kind of fascinating for somebody who used to cover television. But podcasts are something that there's a podcast out there no matter what you're interested, no matter what your likes are, and it becomes like a habit. How did you, you have 2 podcasts now?
Yes, I have Coffee and Combos and the E-Reads podcast.
How did they start? What's the subject matter?
Yeah, for Coffee and Combos, I talk about politics, wellness, and activism. That started, again, like with the just politics. There were so many great conversations happening, much of which was on the radio. And at that time, I didn't have access to hear them like live and when they were happening. So I said it would be great to have a podcast where, people can kind of get that local news. So my cousin has a podcast, Seriously Podcast, where she talks about Black web series. And from there, she kind of helped and coached me. So I started that one. Have 100 shows now. And then the other one, E-Reads podcast, I started around my authorship journey. And it's all about books, the creative process. It's really great, traditionally published, hybrid published, indie published authors talking about writing and everything that goes into the creative process.
This may strike you as being an odd or not wise question. But it's one thing to walk into a radio studio and start talking, especially when you have a guest like yourself. We're talking to Liz Bullard, who is an author, community activist, and so much more. It's one thing to do that, but the idea of just sitting down and talking into a microphone alone in a room by yourself and going on for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, that's daunting.
Well, that's why I always have a guest, but like some people can do that solo podcast. I just can't. I get really nervous when it is just myself, even recording the intro. But it's really great when you do have a really good guest.
So do you ad-lib it all, or do you script out a lot of it just to be safe?
No, I just I go and we'll talk about hey, I'll ask what do you want to talk about, and we've had some really great topics, whether it's diversity in publishing, and this is with the E-Reads podcast, the character development, anthologies, all these different things. And so I will just I want to know more, I'm oh, well, tell me more about this. And then what about this? And it's very conversational. So, it's a shorter podcast. I go about 20, 30 minutes, and it's just really conversational. I end with a prompt. So each is an original prompt written by me based on what the guest has said. Some of my most recent were papaya. I've had squirrel. I've had phrases. So if you check out the podcast, you'll get an original prompt written by me.
Well, we talked about it earlier, but let's get back, since we only have 5 minutes left now, let's get back to the Prophecy Trilogy, New Moon, your new book. Give us another hit on where you can get it, and then we'll talk some more about it.
Sure. You can pick this up wherever you buy books, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, wherever you buy books. You can go to the LizBullardWrites.com website, where you have links and everything there to access all of my stories there. You have
a fantasy world. You have a different world, a different culture. What are you particularly proud of in terms of creating this world that you kind of went, I thought of that. That's an interesting element that I got in there.
Yeah, I think the elemental magic element is something that is most interesting to me, being able to weave that in and see how would these people use fire. There's a scene with Eli and his daughter Alora where they make glass together, right? She uses her fire, he uses his skill with air to kind of craft this, and I think that was really fun to think about. Wow, and I actually made that make sense. So that was really fun seeing that. So what's the target audience? Who are you trying to reach with this? Yeah. Because I'm sure it's, fantasy, sci-fi lovers,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, good. So definitely, it falls under like the magical realism. So like if you are like, I can't get into epic fantasy. It's not that far fantasy where it's an epic. It's more grounded in magical realism. So if you're into just a little bit of fantasy, you'll like this. Target age is adult women. Even though quite a few men have enjoyed the series because there's enough of that balance. We have Eli and his journey there, but definitely adult women, probably like mid to late 20s to like 40s. It's definitely who tend to kind of vibe with the content and the story.
Sounds good. We've talked about so much. What haven't we talked about?
Oh, really good.
Oh, you're into cooking.
Yes.
I forgot about that. You're into cooking.
Gosh, you did do your homework. Yeah, like I love to cook. I don't put up nearly as enough cooking content, but like I love like tea, going and grabbing something good to eat. Absolutely.
As far as cooking, what's your specialty?
I know I'm not great at baking. I would love to be a good baker, but like I'll try anything with a recipe. I love savory stuff. Savory is definitely my jam. But I'm also really good at biscuits. I can do a killer biscuit.
Well, let me throw a phrase at you, see if you agree. You may or may not. There's no such thing as too much garlic.
Oh, facts. Oh, garlic is amazing. It's amazing.
That was my big thrill. It was a Friday or over the weekend. I went out and harvested my garlic crop.
Really?
You know, people don't realize. Have you ever grown garlic?
I'm trying to. It's not going great.
It's so easy. You plant it in the fall. You early June or whatever. You cut the scapes off. End of July, you harvest it.
So maybe like
piece of cake.
Maybe I did it too early. Like it just keeps dying on me.
Does it have a lot of sun or not? It needs sun.
Okay, maybe the sun is probably the issue.
Yeah, you need a lot of sun, but you can grow it anywhere. I think you can grow it in like a wooden barrel or something, or I just have a small raised bed in my side yard, and I get about, I don't know, I think I planted 20 cloves last year or 25 cloves, and it's just they came up in there, and this year they are absolutely huge. They're wonderful.
All right, I'm not going to give up on the garlic then.
Don't give up on the garlic. Anyway, Liz, I appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk. This has been so enjoyable.
Thank you so much.
And we've covered so much territory. I mean, I can't believe it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You've been a great host.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And now you get to escape this fantasy world and go into the other fantasy world. The book, again, is called New Moon. It's a part of a trilogy. And where can you get it again? You can get Prophecy Trilogy New Moon on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Nobles, Smashwords, wherever you buy books. Go check it out. Great. Liz, thanks for joining me. Thank you.